If you have programmed in Java before, you might have noticed that Python is very different. It's simpler in some ways, and it also has many interesting constructs which allow you to do a lot by writing very little code. Another difference between Python and languages such as Java and C Sharp is the fact that in Python, functions are first class citizens. Functions are first class citizens just like other data types, like primitive data types, numbers, booleans, and complex data types such as lists and dictionaries. Functions are also a data type, they are first class citizens. When we have a language which supports first class functions, this means that functions can be assigned to variables and then invoked. We've seen this in the case of lambda functions. Functions can also be input arguments to other functions. We've seen this when we worked with lambdas as well. We passed in a lambda as an input argument to the filter, the map, and the reduce functions. And lastly, functions can also be return values from functions. All of the things that we can do with other data types, we can do with functions as well. Let's define a very simple named function called add underscore function. It takes in two input arguments a and b and returns the sum of a plus b. Let's invoke this function with 40 and 34. We get the result 74. This function is not a lambda, it's a named function which we've defined using the def keyword. We can assign this function to another variable. Here we've assigned the add function to the sum underscore function variable. Now, if you want to add two numbers, you can invoke the add function by calling the sum function variable. We pass in the input arguments 2 and 4, the result is 6. Here we've defined a function called perform operation. This accepts as one of its input arguments another function fn. Perform operation accepts two more input arguments a and b, and then it invokes this fn function on a and b and stores the result in the result variable. This result that we get after performing the function that was passed in on the input arguments a and b is what is returned to the user. We can now call perform operation to perform any operation we want. Here we want to perform the addition, so we pass in add function as the first input argument, and we want to add the numbers 2 and 8. Those are our second and third input arguments to perform operation. Perform operation calls the add function on 2 and 8, and we get the result 10. Similarly, let's say we had a subtract function which takes in two input arguments a and b and returns a minus b. We can call the perform operation by passing in the subtract function. This will subtract 2 from 7. We get the result 5.